how about losing hope, or coping mechanism that individuals have to use in order to make sense of life? I don't know if that makes sense. Like when you feel kind of like you're waking up, it's like kind of a wail, but a sense of loss of hope of whatever that you've trusted in to keep you going, faith or reasons that you used certain times of your life are not now working anymore to make you.
Can I change the question a little bit?
Please, because
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, there are a couple of things, Lula. First, hope is something that lives in the future.
Mm.
Okay? That's not how it begins. The way it begins is it begins with a desire. I mean, that's really the foundation of life,
Okay.
you know. It begins with a desire. Now, where that desire comes from is irrelevant. Okay. So let me give you an example. When my parents put myself and my brother on a plane, Lufthansa, to go to India, I was 11, he was 10. There was zero desire inside me where I would want to know, the desire to know why my parents are doing this. There was zero desire inside me to ask. Because if you desire to ask a question, you're hoping for an answer.
Mm.
Okay? If there is no desire for a question, there is no hope for an answer. It just doesn't exist. Okay? So, when I was in India, not once in the 2 years that my brother and I were there did anyone inspire the desire to ask the following question. Did you guys do something wrong that your parents pushed you to India? Is there something wrong with your parents? And because those questions were not there, I was never really on a journey to look and hope for answers to come my way, hopefully soon. Okay. And so I had a different set of desires. The desire to, we didn't have money way back then, you know, so we were only getting like 10 rupees per week. And that had to kind of feed us food, fruits, ice cream, and a movie on a Saturday. Those were the questions, and we would hope that we would have enough money to watch Amitabh Bachchan on the big screen. Okay. I have no doubt that if I was to be in India amongst people who would ask me, what are you guys doing here? Where are your parents? You're 11. You can hardly walk and wipe yourself clean. You know? Maybe your parents just kind of had you by accident. Maybe you were adopted, you were never told. and this is the way they want to get rid of you. And once they inspire those thoughts, all of a sudden say, really, these are interesting questions. I want to know what the answers are. Is it true? And so I would go to the principal's office. I would knock on the door, hoping he would open. Then I would hope that maybe I will summon up my courage and ask him, can I use your telephone, please? And let's just say he says yes. I dial the number, and then I would say, I hope my parents pick up. And let's just say my father picks up. Say, Dad, okay? I don't say if it's someone who adopted me or he's my biological, I just say Dad. Why am I here in India? Why can't I come back home? And then in the back of my head, unconsciously, I would hope for his answer to be, son, we sent you to India because you were a loser of a student. You had 0.0 as your GPA in all of your classes throughout the first 5-6 years. We sent you to India so hopefully you could, go to a good school, Sacramento State. So the first thing is that before you jump into hope, you have to kind of figure out where this desire has come from in the first place. Now, it may be a little too late, to kind of talk about all this stuff, but I think nevertheless, it is, at least for me, somewhat important. Because what I usually tell people who are immigrants is that you have a Middle Eastern way of looking at life, you have an African way of looking at life, you have a European way of looking at life, and you have an American way of looking at life. Okay? If you come from the Middle East, there is a certain software in the Middle East. Okay? Certain questions are asked, and they are answered in a very specific way. Certain questions are never asked. Okay? And desires come about through advertisement. Okay? Every culture creates its own set of advertisements. And once they lure you in, and once you become a customer and a consumer of that piece of advertisement, there is a world of questions or desires that come from that piece of advertisement. And then you go on this quest, hoping that somewhere out there these questions will be satisfied. Okay. Someone says, for example, let's just say I'm a woman, I am 20, and I say, I hope I can get married and have a family, like 5 kids. I go through a string of relationships, none of them work out. Now I am 27. I still have hope that I want to get married and have a family, but this particular hope now has a branch that's coming out of it. It's bitter now. It's hope, which is light, but it has shades of darkness to it. And it's something that people like Jonathan Swift, for example, 18th century or so, I think. It's one of the problems of the Enlightenment era, the 18th century Industrial Revolution. We create factories, okay, and you have these machines producing wonder bread, okay, million loaves of them, and then poverty will disappear, hunger will disappear, okay. And someone who is a very keen observant of like the factory machine, industrial revolution life comes to be like Jonathan Swift says. Factories they have made us more poor. At least, before the factories came about, we had 10 people who were hungry and starving. Now we have 50 people. Okay. Then you get to be like 35. You still have another maybe 5 to 7 years hoping to get pregnant. And, but then you go out there, you realize you can't really find a decent man. Okay. Now your hope has a little bit of light and a good amount of darkness to it. You're more bitter now. You're more angry now. But this is just about having a family and having a companion. It hasn't yet leaked into your job. It hasn't leaked into your relationship with your parents. You can still find meaning in life. Okay? Now, if, for example, you're talking about hopelessness, within this particular context, that there is no place in life I can go where I can find hope, joy, happiness, light, contentment, meaning, purpose. Okay? Because nobody gets to that place, immediately. You go through series of experiences, okay? You try to get yourself out of this rut. It's like me fighting Mike Tyson, okay? Initially, I kind of just stand there. He punches me. I kind of fall. I stand up. Then I fight him some more. He punches me. I fall. It takes me a bit longer to get up, but I eventually do. There comes a point, the 5th or the 10th or the 20th time, where he punches me, I fall, and I just don't get up. Okay? So when you're talking about hopelessness, that nothing in life gives me hope, it means that you've been in the ring. You've tried a few times. Okay? Things didn't work. Then what happened is, one branch of life in which you were not very successful, all of a sudden multiplied by 2 or 3 or 4. Now you have 10 branches in life that you were not very good at, okay, and you lost kind of hope in. But there were also these other branches that were not yet tried or experimented. Okay. You had experienced so much negativity, okay, self-doubt, bitterness, confusion, anger, that these 10 knockdowns, they were enough to just knock you out of life completely. So on the 11th relationship, you don't go there with hoping that it's going to work out. You go in there knowing full well it's going to fall apart. You're just waiting for it to fall apart. There is no hope for it to survive. Okay? And then what happens is, over time, it becomes a way of thinking. It becomes a habit. It's not that there is no hope. It's now that this has become so ingrained inside you. It's a huge highway inside you, and it's just a one-way street. Okay, one-way traffic. If I was to be kind of responding to this question within the perspective of religious traditions, none of them give human beings hope. You know, I mean, there could be nothing more hopeless than life is all suffering. The nice thing about all these traditions is that they tell you life is, for the most part, crap. And they say, well, this is how you deal with it. You know, look at the way the bathrooms are made. Okay? You have a knob that you turn on, there's a fan above. You can't get rid of the fact that you have to go to the bathroom. Either a number 1 or a number 2. These are facts of life. Okay? If you're lucky, you'll have windows. That's how you cope with all the awful smells sometimes. You open the windows. If you have no windows, make sure you have a fan on the ceiling that removes the smell. So the Buddha says, look, life is crappy. Here's a fan. Use it. Because if you don't have it, your entire life is going to stink. You know. Do you know what satire is, Lula? Satire, I remember I went to an interview about, I don't know, it was 2001, at Cosumnes River College in Sacramento, or Elk Grove. And one of the questions that they had asked is, around the 18th century, satire was invented. Can you tell us why? And you know what satire is? Satire is someone hands you a flashlight and it's dark and you get really excited and you make all these plans and then they give it to you and then you get really, really excited and then you push the knob and it doesn't turn on. It was dark. The flashlight gave you hope. The flashlight doesn't work. And you want to find the guy or the person who gave you the flashlight and kill him. You know, because it gave you so much inspiration, so much excitement. You know, it just doesn't work. Consider all the things that we have done as human beings ever since we landed on this planet. You build a shelter. It's called a house. You're lucky if you can ever make it a home where people can live peacefully, kindly, you know. You go to school, you get degrees, you know. You get married. Rarely do you find people who are happy in their marriages. You have children. Rarely do you find parents who are happy with their kids. You know, you go to school. Rarely do you find students who are happy with the classes they're taking. They get a job. Rarely do you find people who are happy, regardless of how much money they make. You know. You know, you have Barack Obama, you have Trump, you have all these ridiculous people with ridiculous amounts of money. You know, you have the stuff going on with Russia and Ukraine. You know. You have Russia, just live with it, man. You have all this power. Why do you need more power? For what? It's absurd. I mean, that's just who and what they are. You know. Satire is making fun of all the hopes, all the ambitions that life injects into you. You know, for the longest time, you and I didn't get married to be happy. It was a hopeless case. You get married because you just don't want to die old and alone and sick. You don't have children because they're great. You want them to vacuum the rooms. You know, you don't get a job, as Marx would say, so that it could be an extension of your soul. You need food on the table, man. You know? By the time you get to a place of absolute hopelessness, you're dealing with a habitual way of looking at the world, looking at yourself and your relationship with the world. You know, it's such a thick rope around somebody's neck that can't be cut with just a regular knife. You need something really, really, really sharp. You know, if I'm 18 and I fall in love and the woman leaves me, okay, 2 years later I'm somewhat recovered and I go out on dates. I'll be a bit more cautious, hopefully. You know. If again the woman leaves me at the age of 24, 25, well, I'll kind of begin to doubt myself and my abilities to be in a relationship. But after a while again I'll recover, hopefully. Not as much. You know, I'll be a bit more wounded. But when I'm like 35, 36, and I've tried like 5 or 10 or 15, 20 people and none have worked, of course I'm going to fall into depression. You know, I see myself as a complete failure. I have no confidence. My self-image has been kind of shattered. You know, and when you get to this place, you don't even see yourself as someone being worthy of anyone caring for you, loving you, paying you attention. Your value kind of just drops to, you know, I don't think there is anything wrong with seeing life as an exercise in futility, Lula. Lula, you know I walk into the classroom, right? I don't know if you've ever listened or come to my classes or listened to some of the things I say in the classes. They're very, very dark. They're funny. But I have a very good fanning system. You know, it kind of takes the bad smell of life and turns it into something relatively nice smelling. And for some strange reason, people enjoy it. You know. The Gospels have nothing good to say about the physical world or life. Socrates didn't have anything nice to say about people or society. And Muhammad didn't really have nice things to say about people either. He tried to get rid of them as much as he possibly could. The people who were against him. You know, Moses didn't have time to wait for the Egyptians to kind of mature. He just drowned them.